Welcome to Newsmakers. I'm Kevin Chapman. Well, tonight on Newsmakers, we're going to be talking about a special subject, civil rights, past, present, and future. It is Black History Month, and I'm happy to have in the studio with us Professor Randal Jelks, a professor of history at Calvin College, to talk about civil rights and the new book you've written. Welcome to the studio.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you. And your book is African Americans in the Furniture City. It's a retrospective on the past of Grand Rapids from basically the beginning.
That's right.
Until about the 1950s and 60s.
That's right. It actually begins around 1850 when the city is chartered, and it goes until the 1950s, 1954 to be precise. I wanted to stop at 54 because I was born in 56 and I feel like I would be doing contemporary history.
Right, right.
Yeah,
well, tell me about what precisely this book looks at in terms of the struggle for African Americans.
Well, this book starts off, Kevin, looking at the city. What was going on in the city in 1850 in the United States as the city comes about? Well, one of the great concerns throughout the dailies was the fugitive slave law. And so Grand Rapids is born in this tempestuous time just before the country goes into civil war. And the concerns are about African Americans the majority of them are in the South in slavery, but many are who are up here. And this creates a great source of tension. So our city sort of starts at the moment our country is trying to once again define what civil liberties are, who's a citizen, and one that I want to do is what was this tiny African American community? How do they navigate their way through the world and build a better community and build a Grand Rapids that we see today?
You say in your book that Grand Rapids is a microcosm for the changes in race relations and urban environments for the United States as a whole. Could you elaborate on that concept?
Yeah. I say that because Grand Rapids may want to think of itself as different than other places, but in many ways, it's a smaller way of what's going on all over the country. What we see going on all over the country as a result of urban renewal and highways is that people are far more segregated today than they are, say, even 50 years ago. We don't live in walkable communities. So the chances of people meeting and rubbing up against each other and learning about each other is affected by that. Those kinds of changes have affected like a city like ours. The kind of racial tension, whether we're talking about Detroit or Chicago or Grand Rapids or Cleveland, all of those things are still here in place. So I wanted to show people in the city where I've spent most of my adult life what their city looks like from the perspective of looking at one ethnic group, that's African Americans, and as they intersect with other ethnic groups around the city.
Well, I had a good chance to speak with you before we started rolling the cameras today, and you said that you want this book to be a real source of discussion for the community. It takes a look at Grand Rapids, and that's something that really not a lot of other books on the subject do, right?
Right. Well, it took me between 11 years on one count or 9 years on another count to do the research for this book. I didn't simply want to write an opinion book. I wanted to write a book that had some real research, some real background, that other people could go back and look at the sources themselves, and then come back to this community after it's all written and narrated, so to speak, and have something that was concrete and a source for discussing why do we have this conflict with the police? Why black communities and the police have this conflict? What's the legitimate claims of black people? What's not legitimate? All of those things can come up by reading about the past, not your present, and in a way that you are a little bit distant on, and you can see the things that help shape our city. And you have this. I'm hoping people will have this aha moment, like, wow. These issues were back in the 50s or the 40s, and they weren't rectified then when people were asking for them, and aha, we've come to this point.
Now, let's continue on that vein there. That generating discussion. How important do you think that is for the community to really take this by the horns and start to address this with discussion, and instead of As you mentioned, this has been an issue that's been around since the civil rights era.
Right.
It really needs
And
addressing.
before. Well, my hope is that, look, our city leaders, political and economic leaders, want to transform our city. And if they don't tackle the problematics of ethnicity and race in our city, they won't do it. I'll give you an example, Kevin. It was floated around for a while that maybe Kmart would move its headquarters to Grand Rapids. The president of that company was is an African-American man. Kmart's bought out, but he's the president of the Kmart section. So the question I heard from people in the Detroit area was, why would anybody who's black move to Grand Rapids? I mean, that's an issue. We get bad press all around the country about Grand Rapids as being a very closed to people who are different, who come from different backgrounds.
Is there a perception of segregation?
Oh, yes, it's very much so. And so we need to tackle those issues. Those are economic issues. We won't invite the best talent, whoever they are, to the city if we don't tackle those issues.
What about the people who say they don't perceive segregation in Grand Rapids? What do you say to them, and how do you bring them to the table?
Well, I don't know how to bring them to the table, but I think that anyone just looks at our school system, and the high 80% of the Grand Rapids public school system is minority students. Minorities make up roughly African Americans in King County make up 7% of the total population, maybe 8%. Latinos are growing and Hispanics are growing fast, but 80% of our schools, the outlying areas, especially the upper income outlying areas, are mostly all 95, 97% white. You can see it with your eyes. You may not want to admit it. You may not know how to talk about it, but it's there.